Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Dawn, and in this video, I wanted to do a bit of a breakdown and talk about the deck that I used to get to Legend this month, which went super well. I actually didn't expect it to go as well as it did. Got me day 3 Legend with the 10-star bonus, and I want to show you and talk about it a little bit. We're going to go more in depth, but it is actually Doomhammer Shaman, and you can see the post that I made about it on Twitter here. Doomhammer Shaman entered at Legend 410. Check my Twitter if you want to see those exact stats, but I do want to walk through some of the things with you all in this video, kind of break down really what I'm looking for in mulligans and kind of the line of thinking that I go into a lot of the matches with when I'm actually playing the deck. One thing that I've noticed when looking at the global stats for some of the mulligan cards, I think people are definitely underestimating certain cards. So I want to talk about the mulligan, and I'm actually going to show you a breakdown of the HS replay global stats versus my stats over these games that I took to Legend, and actually even beyond, because I've played some with the list since I hit Legend. So let's look at these. So the first thing we see here is the mulligan guide, and I'm going to show my stats here in a second. If we look at, typically, I try to actually look at what is a positive mulligan win rate and what is also kept, the kept percentage. This is important, I think, because if there's a card that might have a low mulligan rate but has a very high kept rate, or vice versa, has a really high win rate but a low keep rate, there has to be a reason why. And that reason might be if the win rate is high, but it's not very kept very often, it could be for a specific matchup that you want to keep that card, or only in certain cases. So a lot of times people might not keep it, and vice versa. People might be overestimating a card, but when you look at the rates that it has with the win rate, it might be pretty low. So people might be over keeping certain cards. So that's why it's kind of important. And I think even these more aggressive decks, people think these are easy decks, and some of these actually make a huge difference when you are looking at win rates over the course of a session or over a longer period of time. Now, the biggest thing I will say across the board, and this is going to be the same with my stats versus these global stats, if you notice, the ones that have the highest mulligan win rate and the highest win rate basically are your early elementals. Now, the one that I don't actually often keep and might be driving down that kept win rate is Primal Dungeoneer. It is a very solid card, but for me, I actually prefer to just, especially in most matches, I really want to just be getting the elementals down and pushing pressure with those. You do get draw with the Primal Dungeoneer, but because you're drawing spells, the way this deck is built, there's only 4 spells, and the 4 spells are really, you're looking to put them on your Doomhammer, maybe with Arid Stormer. I'll talk about that one in a little bit, but I feel like I'd rather be applying a lot of pressure in the first half of the game with my elementals and minions and getting those on the board and hitting face with those, rather than taking a turn to play the 2-3 and draw. It does get you closer to some elementals though, and it still is a very good card. So I'm not going to say don't ever keep it. I just personally tried to get more elementals and necessarily wouldn't always keep the Dungeoneer. After you're looking at the elementals, again, your 1s, your 2s, and the biggest one that I want to talk about as well is Granite Forgeborn. It does actually have, in global stats, an 84.6% keep rate and 60% mulligan rate. And if you look here at mine, you can actually see this is showing a 100% keep rate. I absolutely love Forgeborn. I think it is a super pivotal card, and honestly, there's very few times I think I wouldn't keep it. And that is maybe if I am going first, I somehow can't get another elemental and I'm against a face hunter. Like that might be the only case, or maybe another aggressive deck, as long as I can guarantee that it is a really aggressive deck. Even Druid right now, It's not guaranteed to be like an aggressive druid or beast druid. And even if it is, you're getting a 4/4 body on the board, which usually is going to kill 2 of their minions against an aggressive deck. Yeah, you're keeping a 4-drop, and I think that's where people get kind of tripped up, thinking, I don't have coin, I don't have this other card, so I'm not going to keep Forgeborn. But for me, you're playing that 4-drop, you're getting a body, but you're discounting a ton of stuff in your deck. And there have been some pretty insane lethals that I have been able to get and big swing turns because of the effect of Forgeborn. Again, that's the biggest one that I really want you, if you're going to try this deck, really think about Forgeborn in a different way. Honestly, it even could be compared, at least somewhat, to Incanter's Flow. And we all know how good Incanter's Flow is. Try thinking about it in that same kind of sense. Even now, at 4 mana, people are still playing Incanter's Flow. This is a very similar effect, and you're getting a body. It's feeding right into what your deck wants to do. Definitely want to play that. Now, again, these are my win rates here. You can see that Brucon is actually a really high Mulligan win rate, even though I don't ever keep it. And same with Lilypad Lurker. These two are ones that I don't ever keep. So this is why I like looking at Mulligan win rate and keep rate. Because if you just look at Mulligan win rate, you might be thinking, why are we keeping Brucon? Well, we're not. We're not keeping it. These are just really great cards to play on curve and to keep your tempo going. And basically the same thing with Slogger. Slogger is fantastic, a body and healing against more aggressive decks, or to apply a lot of pressure against slow decks. Again, if you notice, if you look at what I have kept, it's these early drops, Forgeborn. The only other one is the Gyre Worm, which I really don't keep as often against more aggressive decks that I know are going to be playing minions, because getting to play your own body and remove something of theirs is fantastic. But I think if you're going to be playing those early minions against a more aggressive deck, you want to get a body and remove something, I prefer Arid Stormer. It's going to be able to potentially remove 2 instead of just 1. The 5 health is very relevant against a lot of decks. And if you keep that Wind Fury body on the board, you can do a lot of extra damage with putting a Rock Biter weapon on that Wind Fury, because it's basically the same as your Doomhammer weapon. So if you have the chance and you want to put on pressure, don't be afraid to put that Rock Biter weapon on an Arid Stormer and send it face. And now I want to talk about another one of the big concepts that I have been using for a lot of my games, especially against Druid, because this deck can put on a lot of pressure really fast and just kind of roll Druids over, as long as they don't really build up too much armor, which I know can happen sometimes. But if you are looking for your early elementals, not just early minions, and that's why I really wanted to point out about the Dungeoneer earlier, if you really keep your elemental chain going, keep bodies on the board, and keep smacking them in the face, especially with using tips like I mentioned with the Rock Biter on an Arid Stormer, you can push a lot of damage and be closing games out on turn 5 or 6 before the Druid is really even getting going with a lot of their stuff. Not even just against Druid, but a lot of the matchups, I've been really preferring to try to get bodies on the board as much as possible in the first part of the game and use my minions for damage to face as much as possible. Because what happens is if they have removal, your minions start to lose value the longer the game goes, especially if they can answer the minions basically right when you play them. You're playing the minion, you're just getting it on the board, and it's not doing anything that turn. With the Doomhammer, you can actually attack twice with that for potentially a lot of damage the same turn you play it. So if you watch a lot of my games, if you've hung out in my stream when I've been playing this, you might notice that I start the game even all the way through turn 6 or 7 potentially, playing minions, and I will hold Doomhammer in my hand. And I think that's actually really been a very good thing for the way the games have panned out, because I'm applying all that pressure. The opponents have to answer my board, and they might be trying to manage my minions, And then all of a sudden, turn 7 or 8 rolls around, and then I play a Doomhammer and Rockbiter or Doomhammer Storm Strike and hit them for 10 to 16 damage after I've already done a bunch of damage with my minions. And that usually closes out games or almost closes out games. And a lot of times as well, you can even set it up where you push all your minions through. You can play the Doomhammer plus a spell, and you're actually setting them to around 4 damage. That way, even without a buff to your Doomhammer, you still threaten lethal with nothing on board. The last thing I want to talk about is the Brucon. I know even on stream, there's been questions about if you don't have Brucon or they're unable to craft it. I honestly think Brucon is pretty good, but you can get away with playing without Brucon if you don't have it. So if you're looking for an alternative, any other thing that can apply more pressure or deal more damage, honestly, even an additional nature spell that deals damage to add that little bit of additional reach. And also the same thing if you don't have Instructor Firehearts. Both of those are very good cards. You can still get wins without them with the philosophy of playing your elementals and applying minion pressure, and then trying to close out or almost close out the game with that Doomhammer big swings. And if you stuck around through this whole video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I do hope that you're getting value from these. I really do enjoy hearing what people want to see from my videos and content. I'm taking note on that and really trying to put together a whole catalog of videos and different ideas that I could be doing on this channel. So please keep those coming. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out any other deck guides, you can check out a playlist here. And go out there and make today legendary.